So here is another video. In this video, I'm going to say a few things to recap on my thoughts on Judaism and Israel. You may have assumed that I am what they call a classical Zionist, and some of you may be confused at why I say I'm very liberal, but I'm also Zionist. Let me clarify that. I am not completely Zionist, nor am I anti-Zionist. It's much more complicated than that. Now, while the fact is that a lot of those left-wing college campus kids who say free Palestine, Palestinians are completely innocent, and Israel is completely bad, that is not true, but neither is the opposite. It is not that the Israeli government is completely innocent either, and it's not like Palestinians never get hurt by Israelis. Basically, it's more of a two-way thing. So, I'm going to share a few other thoughts about Judaism, about my take on Judaism and on Israel, so that you can see that, and some of them which might be helpful in resolving the Israeli-Palestinian conflict even. So, one thing that might shock some Jewish people, especially the more observant, strict Zionist Orthodox Jews, is that, get ready for this, my Judaism is actually not based so much in Israel. It actually is more based within the forests of the diaspora. Now, I haven't actually been to Israel. I do hope to go sometime, but at the same time, I'm hoping that, it doesn't feel like my ultimate spiritual homeland, because I have been to Northern California, sort of similar desert habitat, and it's not as, home as, I didn't feel as home there as I feel within the forests of the Northeast. Now, the parts of the diaspora that I feel at home are basically the temperate, boreal, and subarctic forests of New England, the eastern seaboard, Canada, Alaska, Pacific Northwest, and northeastern Europe, places of central, northern, eastern, and northeastern Europe, such as the wooded forests, the temperate, boreal, and subarctic woods of Russia and Poland and Ukraine, for example. So the ecosystem kind of goes first it's temperate. Above the temperate forest is the boreal forest. Above the boreal forest is the subarctic forest, and then above the subarctic forest is the Arctic, the tundra, and the ice flows. So I do sometimes feel close to the tundra and the ice flows as well, to the Arctic habitat as well. So I do hope to visit Israel, and Israel will definitely be within my lexicon of various places around the world that are my spiritual home. I have a bunch of different spiritual homes, a bunch of habitats that I feel close to throughout the world, and for that matter, in alternate worlds, like in other planets, possibly, like that I've read about in fiction. So, however, the temperate, boreal, subarctic, and at times Arctic habitats of the northern hemisphere, which are similar, there's a lot of overlap, similarities between wildlife, animals, and plants with same places around North America, Europe, and Asia. So, that I feel like is my ultimate home, and it's kind of where I base my Judaism, where I base my worship of the Lord's Son, and the Hebrew goddess, and all the different animal and tree and other nature spirits that I believe in. So, that's not to say I don't feel at home in Israel, which I do. I also feel home in a bunch of other places, but my Judaism is ultimately based in what most Jews consider the diaspora, and specific important parts of the diaspora too, like the northeastern United States and Eastern Europe. So, well, I have a feeling that whatever conflict does go on in Israel, whether it's the Palestinians hurting the Israelis or vice versa, which both happen and both are very tragic, a lot of that, on the Israelis' part, could possibly be, averted, in which, if more Jewish people tended to focus, to base their Judaism on more of a different part of the world, either their own place where they grew up, which is, in my case, sort of true, because I grew up in Massachusetts and I was born there and still live there, or some other parts of the world, that they feel close to, where there's not as much conflict going on. Again, I'm not putting the blame solely on the Israeli army or the Israeli government, but it does have blood on its hands. There is no, joke about that. It does hurt Muslims, and Muslims do hurt Jews. So, on the Jewish half, possibly, if so many Jewish people, most Jewish people feel like our sacred homeland is ultimately Israel, which is okay, but the only problem with that is if you always constantly think that you're in exile if you live in a diaspora area, and that you must always rely on going over to another part of the world, and there's a war going on that's somewhat caused because of the pressure there, that you feel you need to go to the diaspora, the Palestinians feel they need to go different parts of there too, even the Coptic Christians for that matter, all the people who live in that area, if they possibly, based their spirituality in less, conflict-ridden parts of the world, then that actually might be helpful towards making peace there. So, of course, the ones who live there, if you already live there, you can totally base your spirituality there. You just have to stop fighting, no matter what faith you are. You have to stop hurting each other, whether you're Christian, Muslim, or Jewish. But what I'm talking about are more so the Jewish people and the Christians and Muslims in other areas, such as the United States, or Canada, or Europe. So, some other aspects of my Jewish beliefs. Judaism is not the only faith that I practice. As you know, I practice a very liberal, take on Judaism, and by liberal, a lot of liberal Jewish people are anti-Zionist, but then again, some of them are pro-Zionist. I actually kind of go for the truth, which is more of a two-way thing. The reality is two-way, it's not one way or the other, but being liberal, meaning I don't keep kosher, I don't follow any of the 613 religious laws, I do what I want, and the other thing is that a problem that I have that I had discussed in my video about why I don't think Judaism is or should be human-centered. One of the reasons that it often is because a lot of Jews, even liberal Jews sometimes who practice Judaism, tend to say that man is made in God's image. The problem with that is that some Jewish people tend to take that as believing that only humans are made in God's image, and God just looks like a human. He doesn't look like any other animal or tree or rock or anything else in nature. And that can allow, so a lot of Christians and Muslims also believe that about God. And that is what can sometimes lead to people of faith not focusing or caring enough on environmental issues, but focusing too much on human rights issues and not enough on issues about the non-human world and its rights. Because if you constantly see yourself in God, that is kind of self-centered and too focused on your own species. Now, that's what also can cause some monotheists to be against therianthropy or otherkinism or being furry, as I explained, and which I've experienced firsthand personally. So, my beliefs are that the entire universe was created in God's image. So basically, God can look like anything in the universe, any person, any human, any non-human animal, any tree, rock, any other planet or other galaxy. I just tend to mainly see him as the sun and as a lion, and I also see him as a male rabbit, like a buck rabbit, as they do in Watership Down sometimes. Like the Lord's Son is also often described as the greatest rabbit of all, the rabbit creator, and as well as a great eagle or some type of raptor, bird of prey. That's also often how I see the male God. Now, as I've said, I do believe that God is both male and female, but that ultimately God is neither a him or a her, but is both. So Asherah, Shekinah, and Adonai are all the same God. However, Adonai is God's male half, and Asherah and or Shekinah is her female half. So God's both a he and a her. So God can thus appear as a human man, as a human woman, as a mountain, as anything. But like I said about the Jewish goddess, I tend to see her the most as a white wolf who looks a lot like Balto's mother and Nayu, a doe rabbit, a lioness, and a white tiger. So, so one thing I wanted to show you is this body paint I did today. It's not, I don't know how pro it is, it might not be perfect, but I did try to go for pro on this. This is a star with some like meteor, shooting star flares around it. It got a tiny bit smudged, but I was out with it, and had to sit like on the place in the train, so the train might have smudged it. But, that is, you will see a lot more pro stuff in my later videos, as I've already mentioned. But I just wanted to show you that. So, for what, so let me see. So that's it for now. Talk to you later. Shalom. Shabbat shalom, by the way.